Speaking of
Speaking of
young
John John,
John,
you know,
young
yeah.
John,
And
that's right.
this for me also the same thing of like, you know, don't 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 be so judgmental when you're amongst the crowd thinking who the
Yeah.
star is. You know, because in a lot of times you will focus on one thing, but it's like this photo at the time, John John was just a little grom. You didn't think nothing of it. And then
Mhm.
that's the beauty now of going, recognizing at the time all these little groms could grow into somebody. And then all
Absolutely.
of a sudden, boom, you have that period and there he is. And that's what's cool of like having that photo where it's like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
decades of
Yeah.
it,
The
you know?
history, and you're capturing these
Yeah.
moments
Yeah.
and preserving them in this thing. This is obviously probably at the Eddie, right? The opening ceremony or
Yep.
something
Yep.
like
At
that.
the Eddie.
And
Yeah.
John John goes
Yeah.
on to win it in 2016.
Yep.
And so it's like
Yeah.
you get all of these little pieces
Yeah.
from that moment that, look in his eye. He knew he was going to win it. You know what I mean? Like at
Yeah.
the time, no
Yeah.
one knew
Yeah.
that, but he knew.
Yeah.
You could just tell, like
Well,
him
and that's the
dreaming.
funny thing,
It's
you know,
cool.
because even with John John
Yeah.
was, when he was that little kid on the beach, that's how it is. But it was like you got to earn your respect. But it was like, little John John,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and then boom, and all of a sudden he just started hitting, and it was like,
Yeah.
oh, John John,
Right, right. So sick, dude. This is
Yeah,
a
this
wild
is a
place
legendary
there.
pool in Palm
Okay.
Springs. It's called the Nude Bowl,
Hmm.
and the rumor was it was an old nudist colony, and there's this pool, and so they had this thing, and once again it was back since the 80s they were skating it, and then it got filled in, and it was filled in forever, and locals in Palm Springs guys just ended up starting to get out one day, and they dug
Wow.
it out and brought it back to life. And yeah, this was the coming in on the morning at probably like 7 in the morning coming in because it's so hot in the desert.
Yeah.
But yeah, we drove up onto it, and that was like kind of walking into it and just being like,
Right.
oh my god,
So rad.
Because that's the funny thing with
Yeah.
skating too. It's like you
Yeah.
have things like the Hell Bowl where you had you have surf spots,
Hmm.
throughout the world that you're like, oh,
Yeah,
well,
got to get to
in skating,
destinational.
it's
Yeah.
these spots of like, oh, it's
Yeah.
this pool or this ditch or
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's kind of like that whole thing.
Absolutely. Rad portrait there.
Yeah.
Little
Yeah,
portrait
this was
lifestyle.
a photo. Yeah, in my old studio, and this was one of my muses, and still one of my really good friends, Lana.
Nice.
And yeah, she just was super rad, artistic girl. Just really had a really good confidence and kind of aura about her, and so it was like one of those things where it was like really cool to be able to shoot with her, utilize her on because I do a lot of stuff with where I shoot photos and then I'll make stencils.
Nice.
And I I use the models that I shoot rather than taking imagery from somewhere else.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because you do a lot of artwork as well. And so you're now saying that you're mixing the two mediums and bringing them together for your inspirations from your photography world into the art world. Talk to us a little bit about that process on that, and as we kind of click through here.
Yeah. So skating in the early days, we would paint on our grip tape, and that was kind of like my whole introduction to the world in art was painting on grip tape and doing art on grip tape, and also on my surfboards. And at the time for me, it was trying to mimic punk rock, the Clash albums on my surfboard or what have you, and then once again going into grip tape. Well, so grip tape, that kind of thing then turned into doing stencils, and at the time before I would just take Jimi Hendrix, blah blah blah. So I was taking stencils and making it, and then also for me, I really love women. Women are a very big inspiration for me. So then again, it was like taking Kate Moss photos and doing that. So at the same time, my art and my skating's going, my photography's going, and I'm shooting. So I'm in New York, and I'm there shooting photos, and also they're skating. And I had a grip tape that had a photo of Daria on there that I just took from a magazine. Long story short, met a guy. He was shooting photos with her the next day, so I gave the board, tried to give him the board, ended up meeting them the next day because she wanted it, went to the studios, gave her the board. She was like, this is insane. Took a photo with her with the board, and was just in shock that I'm sitting there with Daria Wilbury, like, oh my God, Dylan Reader's with me. We're both just like, fuck, this is insane. And it's like super cool. It's like, okay, we're going to bounce. Thank you. And same thing, the relationship continued. Well,
wow.
In doing art with these brands, I was doing art for a shoe brand, and they saw the stencil with her. They didn't realize that I didn't have the permission, and they made a slipper with her image on it.
Oh,
and again, that wasn't my image.
Yeah.
So luckily she was cool, and we squashed it. All she wanted was a snowboard from Burton. So they gave her a snowboard, and she squashed it over the photographer. But at that point I said, I can never take another photo.
Yeah.
Because I got that point.
Wow.
I got stuck in the middle. So but it also went, as a photographer, I don't want people taking my, So it was like, okay. So again, then it went from all the girls going, okay, now I got to shoot my models to use on all my products or use on my grip tape.
Very cool. Out of necessity, you saw that and put the two together.
I can't just tape. And then again, that all, but it also too, it started making my art very, very personal because again, these girls were my friends, and they were, it was more than a modeling job. It was actually about making art. And for them, they're stoked because, like Lana, she's been up on murals in Brazil and Japan, all around the world. And Mahina, all these girls that I utilize. And that's the thing, they're my friends, and again, it's my art, so I want it to be someone that I have a tie to and I have a relationship with and respect for. So once again,
that's rad, dude. That's that's sick.
Yeah, and this is rad because this is Little Dragon, and just kind of on the same thing of really trying to stay in a positive role and really willing things that you want to happen. And I was obsessed with Little Dragon. And I was obsessed with listening on trips. And I was working with a good friend of mine, Yankee, and Yankee was helping me with a lot of different things. Yeah. And so I turned Yankee on to them, and they loved it, and da-da-da. And so, it's like, oh, I want to shoot Little Dragon. And sure enough, we get back from a Brazil trip, and I'm home, and all of a sudden I get a call from Yankee. He's like, hey, what are you going to do on next Monday? My aunt, after I'm home, he goes, oh, well, Little Dragon's in town and you could shoot with them. And it was like, what? So it was great because they actually were right down the street from me. They were playing. So I was able to go there. And that was what was cool, is they actually wore this outfit for me for this shot.
That's so cool.
And then they switched when they played, and I was able to shoot them play live. And
nice.
It was one of those same things. Just
manifested it.
Being respectful and manifest and
that's right.
Yeah,
you just never know when these opportunities, and I feel like, even more so nowadays with social media and everything that's happening, you never know who's seeing your imagery. You never know who's seeing your account on those things, and putting out that positive light and your best foot forward and your work and sharing that. You just never know, and kind of just also putting that out in that affirmation and manifesting. Anything is possible.
It's also, and it's also as artists, you got to remember that artists respect other artists.
Yes.
Photographers, we all need each other. Music, we all coexist together, and that's the thing. If you're on your game, they want you to use. Like, I want him to shoot.
Absolutely.
I want to look a certain way. So it's also too the way you conduct yourself.
Yep.
And I'm always saying positive, just try and be the best you can, and stuff comes around, and that's the beauty. And
absolutely. Shoot.
Yeah,
I love this. I love really, speed really blurs cool. this and just kind of getting those.
Man, this is an El Moro, and we went out there to shoot some stuff for my friend who is another Hawaii guy, Bronny built, and he did all these motos. And this is actually Taylor, who works with me a lot. He does a lot of my photo stuff, my lighting, my photo assistant. But we were out there, and sorry, El Mirage. I said El Moro. And so, like, for this shot, I was actually standing up in the bed of the back of a truck.
Jeez.
And we were blazing in one way. And that's also a thing from skating and from surfing. I have psychoness and same, I'm not afraid of shit. And it's like, just go. And, later you're done and you think about, like, dude, what the fuck? Like, that was stupid as shit, but I got the shot.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things. It was, to be able to be over it and hang, and same thing, trying to compose it, because that's also the point of, like, photography, and a lot, I think that gets lost with a lot of people, was back to, again, the generation of shooting film and all this, it was such a thing about composure.
Right.
And it was so much, it almost was too much, where it was like, you can't shoot this way and that way. And it was like, it's too much. But once again, this is, it's part of it. It's part of everything. And that's like, for me, going into to all the realms of photography, for me, I wasn't the lighting expert. I wasn't the perfect. I by no means. Mine was the moment, and once again, the eye or that angle, which is as important. You know, where I learned so much later in life with shooting, and that was the thing. I learned it on job and learning it from working with great assistants like Taylor, and all of a sudden I'm like, this is all new to me. Lighting, that's a whole different world. When you start putting
absolutely, it's an art. It's an art form.
World.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it 100%. You know, and that's the same thing of like, being able to be an artist and work with other artists and utilize, like for instance, I say Taylor a lot. He was in the video with me a lot. But again, he's a guy that I've worked with and I carry with me. And again, he's not my assistant. He's my lighting and my other eye and my right-hand man. And it's such a key point because I don't have to worry about those things, which, again, you have all these elements that, again, go to creating a better and better thing.
Right.
And when, again, you're shooting a photo and a photo's on a phone, that's one thing. But when you're shooting a photo and it's a billboard, it's got to be on point. You know what I mean? So, again, when you go into the realms of shooting photography and shooting professionally, and, again, you start working with crews and sets, those just build. And, again, it's like a movie, and it's like gets even better and better. So it's like you work with great stylists, you work with great, you know, all these other people. And it's like, again, it builds another art form. And that's where, too, when I first started shooting, I would look at like Annie Leibovitz and all these things. I'm like, what the fuck? Oh my God.
Yeah.
And it's like, again,
try to break it down. How did they shoot that? How did they light that?
Yeah. And how did they do their light? What, you know, and again, you look at all those things and you're like, oh, okay, I like tremendous, you know, and again, the more you shoot, the better you get, the more you can get around, the more help people learn, like sit on, like assist, like do these different things, and you'll learn so much. You know? Absolutely.
Even this. So it's shot in a studio, Oblow?
Yeah, this was shot in my studio, and this is Mike Vallely. And Mike's a good friend through skating again, and again, like one of those guys that he's a fucking hero of mine, and he's an icon. And I mean, I love Mike, and he's gotten a lot of shit from people from doing all these things, but it's like he was the first millennial before millennial, where it's like, dude, he's a pro skater, he's playing hockey, he's fucking, he's fighting, he's doing video, he's singing, he's an actor, he's, you know, he's in Hangover. Like, come on, like this guy, and that's the thing, he just boom, 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 and that's the thing. Like when you set your limit to no limit, you can reach for the stars. So this was cool because I had to do a thing for GQ Japan. And they were doing an interview thing with me, and it was cool, like giving them people that influenced me. And, you know, that's a cool thing, being able to call Mike and go, hey, I need you to come over if you don't mind and shoot some stuff. And then sure enough, he's in the garage doing street plants, and, you know.
So sick.
Once again, it's about style, and the style is all there, you know.
Absolutely. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Between Sets. Make sure to like and subscribe to be tuned in on all future episodes. Thank you.